Life is meant to be enjoyed and not restricted. And I think there are certain areas of your life where it makes sense, right? I'm not saying be reckless, but not be restricted by my body's appearance is really the takeaway, right? Welcome back to Boss Bitch Radio. If you are here because you loved the title of this episode, please make sure to go back and listen to part 1. That is going to give you all of the meat and potatoes as to why I choose to take vacations the way I do and sort of live the lifestyle that I do. And this is really my sneak peek into the perspective shifts and changes that I've had as I've transitioned into a different, more curious lifestyle of sorts. And I've dragged my boyfriend along for the ride, which he actually loves. He's not being dragged at all. But this is definitely an episode that is not for little ears. It's not safe for work, probably. And you're likely going to want to plug some headphones in and go for a little walk or do some cardio or clean the house or sit in a bubble bath. I don't know, something, but it's really like sitting down with your girlfriend, your personal trainer bestie, who is giving you the tea and perspective on her experience. The girl's girl. I am a girl's girl. Okay. And so I'm going to give you the real, so you can take some inspired action and maybe share this episode with a friend, share it with a partner, and really start to open up the conversation of trying out some fun new things. Now, picking up where I left off, when it comes to, and like I said, go listen to part 1 because it'll make more sense. But when it comes to being on a vacation or in an environment of this type, right? Lifestyle, swingers, open, whatever. One of the questions that I hear often is, do you feel pressured to participate, right? Do you have to participate in, any of these things, right? The answer is no. The answer is no. Okay. I notice that I get approached less and less in these environments because consent is such a huge deal, right? So there's not going to be random guys coming up to you and advancing you. I think that's what people think, is people are just going to come up to you and just like start to try to make out with you and like weird shit like that, right? But let me give you a story. So I think it was like the 4th night on the cruise, and I'm going to tell you about a workshop we went to about orgies. Stay tuned if that didn't perk up your ears. Okay. We went to the glow night, right? And so I love the glow night. It's neon. It feels like a little bit of a rave and also just, I don't know, a really fucking awesome, fun party. And so I was all dressed up. I think I was in my 6-inch stilettos. I don't know. Jack and I were standing and we were dancing, right? We were dancing. I had my fan out and I was doing the whole like raver fan clickety clack thingy that they do. I don't know. It probably has a name, but listen, that's just what I call it. And so we were like getting it, right? We weren't on the dance floor. We were like off to the side. And then there's this gentleman standing off to the right, and he's notably intoxicated. If I had to guess, he was probably, I don't know, early 60s, maybe late 50s, just living his best life, right? He's just getting after it. He was standing there by himself. His partner was probably somewhere, because the other thing that I forgot to mention on part 1 that's really important for that, is that this cruise had to be booked as a couple. There were no singles on this cruise. It is couples only. And you have to register for 2 people, and it doesn't matter, but there needs to be 2 people in the cabin. This is not a solo dude or a solo girl thing. Now, this does not mean that you won't see single people on the trip. And the reason why you will see them is because sometimes people in the lifestyle, they have play partners or whatever, but they're single. Maybe they're a unicorn and they just play with other couples, or maybe they're what is the word called? I want to say it's a stud. I'm drawing a blank, but a male in the lifestyle. I think it's a bull, maybe. But basically, sometimes they will come together and then they'll come to the cruise, and then they just kind of split off, and then they go have their own fun. They find other couples. Some couples are looking for interesting, different things, right, that they're into. Some couples, I'm going to tell you right now, if you weren't ready, hang on tight because I'm going to give it to you. Some couples will want a male to enter the scene, and some men want to watch a man with their wife, right? It's like a cuckolding situation. And then there's also the opposite, right? Some women want to watch their men with another woman. I will say I fall in this group. Okay. So there is a collective of things, but the point being is that it is definitely a couples only situation, right? So, anyways, that was a tangent I felt called to share. So, homie's over here, he's bebopping. I'm over here. Jack and I are just living our best life, doing our thing. And all of a sudden, I see in my peripheral that he notices me. Now, you know that vibe, right? You know when you're somewhere and you're looking fire, you're looking hot, and the male gaze is happening upon you. Okay. I see it happen to myself all the time. I see it happen to other women, especially in this environment. But again, it's welcomed because it's just the nature of the beast. But sometimes you're going to have a situation where you're just like, okay, like the situation I'm going to tell you about, you're like, okay, buddy, no, thank you. So we're doing our thing. He sees me. And then I just instinctively like looked his direction and then looked away. And I don't know, I guess he took that as an invitation to be able to be in my space. And so he came over to me, which was only like 3 feet. He wasn't far. And he's just like facing me with his back to the DJ. And I don't know if he was like trying to dance with me or what, but he got close all up in my bubble. And like Jack is standing behind me. And I'm like, okay, one of two things is going to happen. If this dude gets too close to me, my man is going to step up, and we just don't want that. Okay. We just don't want that. You don't want that. And so I know that he knows I can handle myself, and I will tell him when I need him to step in. Okay. So I looked at this dude and he got too close. Okay. Too close that I created a little stop sign with my hand, and I extended my arm in his face and I said, "You're a little too close, buddy. No, thank you." And he just kind of giggled and took a step back and he moved the fuck on. Really? So you just have to be comfortable with no thank you, right? Because you're going to have people that drink too much, just like in any party environment. But now you've added like a heightened, like, sexual energy to this crew of humans. And so you really need to just know what your boundaries are, right? So never any pressure to participate. You decide what you want to decide within the context of your relationship, and then the context of the other people that are around you, really, just anything really in life, right? Dating or just anything. Okay, next question. Sip of coffee. Okay, can I just watch or be there without participating? The answer is yes. All right. I talked about in part 1, I talked about how, in the playrooms, you definitely need to be on the same vibe and level as everybody for it to be fair, right? You can't just be like fully clothed and be like, well, I don't want to show you my body, but I want to look at yours doing vulnerable things. It's only fair. So if you go into a playroom, you do need to be in a robe or naked, and you can walk around and you can watch people have sex. Jack and I love to go in and watch people have sex. I'm not even ashamed about that. It's just the heightened energy of that sexual environment is really hot, right? So we will go in, we'll kind of walk around, assess the vibe, watch people have sex. And if a bed opens up, now let me just share with you before you get all grossed out, okay? Because one of the things is that people get like super weirded out and freaked out about, oh my God, look at everybody's gonna be passing STDs to each other and da da da. One thing I've learned, statistically speaking, is that this group population of people who kind of partake in this style of lifestyle actually have lower incidences of STIs than the vanilla regular population that'll just go and cheat behind their partner's back and stuff. Because this demographic and this population really prides themselves on protected sex and being careful and things of that nature. Now, like I said in part 1, there's always a story about a story. So yes, you are going to have those people that don't abide by the rules or don't show up and respect, these types of things, but they are the minority. Okay. It's just that we hear those things, and that's what gets amplified everywhere in the media and when people tell you about their experiences and stuff. But I'm going to tell you that really is going to be dependent on a lot of factors. Who are you hanging out with? What is the conversation? Something's missing here. There's not communication. Like, there's a break in communication usually, or there's substances involved, right? So we go in there and we love to have sex in public spaces and let people watch. Now, Jack and I did this for the first time. Oh man, I want to say it was probably like 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer. And I wasn't too sure how he was going to feel about it. And he fucking loves it. Okay. Cause he fucks good. I'm just going to be real. Okay, one girl to the next. We have that shit on lock. And so we love to do that. We love to go. Now, I'm going to share with you here in another question my kind of experiences and some things about that and really some of my issues with certain things. But you can go in there and again, just to go back on the whole like STIs and stuff, you're going to see that there's tons of condoms everywhere. There's lube, there's things to clean up. They have an entire crew of people that work in the playrooms that they're basically like the pit crew at NASCAR. Okay. Like when somebody gets up off a bed, they fucking get up, they pull the sheets off, they wipe it down, they sanitize it, they put new shit down, and then boom, it's open for the next group of people or couple. And there's different areas in the playrooms. So in the playrooms on the ship, in one of the ones that we went into, there's like these long couches and they're like vinyl or whatever, long couches. You can sit there with your partner and you can watch what's going on. And what's in front of you is a row of beds all put together. Like I want to say in this room, there was like 5 queen beds all kind of squished together. And there is a combination of things happening on that bed. There are couples just engaging with each other, maybe sharing a bed with another couple. There's a group of people over here partaking in group play. There's a group over here of girls with a strap on playing with other girls, and like husbands on the couches are watching, right? So many scenarios. And listen, if your stomach just did oh my God, I could never do that. Great. You don't have to. That's the beauty of it. But you can go and you can watch it and you can see if maybe something about that lights something in you. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is something I would love to experience. And it's an itch you're going to have to fucking scratch. I'm just telling you. Okay. So the rule of thumb that I was taught by a mentor that I hired for a year to work with to talk through and work through really my perspective and my whole view on my curiosity and how I move through relationships was he told me 6 feet. Just fucking honor 6 feet. If you are in a playroom, don't get too fucking close. Like 6 feet, use the COVID rule, hang back and watch, right? Just watch. If people are having sex in that environment, it's because they want you to watch them. Okay. They get off on that. So it's okay for you to go in there. That's your permission. You step through the door. People are having sex. They don't expect that they're going to go in there and they're going to be in the middle of a public room or they're going to be on a bed with sheer curtains and not have people watching. That's the whole point, right? So do your thing, go in there, be respectful. Another thing I will say is that if you're a spectator, don't make commentary. Okay. So this might be a great podcast to share with a partner because this is also going to give you a little bit of some etiquette when you're in the room because some people don't fucking get it. Okay. And usually they're newbie mistakes, but you don't want to be like, yeah, get it. Okay. This is not a football game. Okay. Save that for when you're behind closed doors with your person. And that's something you guys enjoy, but it's incredibly distracting. So as somebody who likes to be watched as I'm in that environment, I want you to maintain your boundary, step back, maintain your distance, respectfully watch. If I look up and I make eye contact with you, acknowledge that energy exchange. And what I mean by that is, this is going to sound weird, but go ahead and take me in with your eyes. Okay, I get it. Take it in, take it all in, watch, and take in what you're seeing, my man doing what he's doing to me or me doing what I'm doing to my man, and enjoy that and let that kind of get you excited for your play with your partner, right? That's the energy that I'm giving. I don't want energy given to me that's like commenting or like trying to direct me, like, oh, suck his dick. Okay, excuse me, like you're not getting paid to direct the show, okay? So it's really just reading the room, reading the energy, going in, but yes, you can 100% watch and be there, and it is really fucking hot. Okay, moving on. Next question. Is it weird to go and not be into the whole lifestyle, full swap and all that fun stuff? No. That's exactly where Jack and I are in this journey together, right? We started with sex clubs first to see if that was going to be something that we could do together. And he knows that it gets me incredibly excited and I love it and I love the energy. But I highly suggest if you are like, oh my God, this sounds like so much fun. You need to crawl before you walk. You need to walk before you run. You need to run before you sprint. I would consider a Bliss cruise a sprint. Okay. Or even a destination resort type thing. That's a fucking sprint because you're there for extended days in this environment and it's highly and sexually charged. And you want to make sure that you've worked out the kinks with your person before you go and try to just tackle that. That would be my suggestion. That might not, you might be ready for that and that's on you. But I would say start going to sex clubs, start looking up sex clubs in your area, lifestyle swingers clubs, that's probably what they're going to be called, and see if you can find some. If you cannot, come to Vegas. Okay. There are plenty here. And that's where you want to go. And they have so many different rules with some of these clubs and different setups. Most of the time, I will say, if you are coming to the Vegas ones here, I know that the ones that I've gone to, and it's kind of a common theme, is that you have to be approved before you go. And this is another reason why this feels really safe as a couple going in, because or even a single female, right? A lot of the clubs will allow for single females to come in and couples, and then they have select nights where they do allow single males. Most of the good clubs are going to vet out those single males before they let them in. So it's not just a free for all, not just everybody can walk up and go. You have to submit a photo. If you are a couple, you have to submit a photo of the both of you, and they will let you know if you can get in or not. So if you are looking to do something like that, and especially if you travel out here to Vegas, plan to do that in advance. Okay. If that's something you want to do, even if if you end up not going, because that process can take sometimes, 24 hours, depending on how busy they are and like what time of the year it is. So do that. Go with your partner. Wear something sexier than you think you should wear. Okay. That's my advice to you, because I remember the first time that I went, and Crystal and I went to one of these events by ourselves. It was a New Year's Eve takeover. And that's actually how we even got introduced to all of this anyways, is this was her harebrained idea. And then I ended up loving every minute of it. And she does too, but she has her own story. And so I realized as we were at that event in San Diego for that hotel takeover that I did not come prepared to be that like as sexy as I thought I was going to need to be, right? With some of my outfits, some of them were, but some of them not. So go find something that, you want to feel flirty and sexy in and not feel like you have to worry about anybody judging you, because everybody else too is going to be dressed very scantily. And in fact, some of the sex clubs, when you get to them at a certain point, like there's one that we like going to here in Las Vegas, and it's called, is it Flirts? I think it's Flirts. They have a couple, and this couple owns, I think 2 or 3 of them. But anyways, they will tell you that you can start playing at midnight. And a lot of times most women will come in wearing one thing and then they'll change and they'll be in another thing. And that's what I prefer doing, is like, I'll go and feel out the vibe, and then I'll wear something really sexy and like skimpy, but then I'll also bring like some sexy lingerie or a robe or something like that in a bag. A lot of times they have a locker room and you could throw your stuff in there with a lock for free. And then you can change and walk around in your lingerie. Your man can, or your girlfriend or whatever. And then your man can also walk around in like boxers or underwear or whatever. And it's totally acceptable and it's totally fine. And a lot of people are doing it. So there's that. Okay. Another question. How is consent communicated? So nobody should be touching you without your consent. So that's the first thing. I highly recommend, again, discussing boundaries before you engage in any play. So discussing boundaries with your partner. I talked about that exhaustively in part 1. If you guys are kind of moving forward and progressing and you meet a couple, or you decide you want to play with a couple, or the girls want to play, or whatever, however that's going to happen, there needs to be a conversation when everybody still has their clothes on or remotely dressed, preferably in a not highly intoxicated state, right? Like you're able to make coherent decisions, and then you can communicate and say, okay, well, this is what we're into, or this is what we're looking for, right? I know something I was very prepared to say when Jack and I were on the cruise. If we met somebody who we totally had hit it off and had like good vibes with, which we did, but it ended up being more friendship vibes with a couple more than like playing with her or anything beyond that. is I was very prepared to be like, and I actually told this couple that what we were looking for was really is kind of moving into the next step of exploring this space is finding another couple that we can play with on the same bed. Like Jack and I are doing our thing on the same bed, and the other couple is on the other bed, on the same bed or in the same room on a different bed, just them also having sex, right? Now, the bonus would be that I would like to play with the girl, or we would have some kind of interaction during this whole thing. And that would be like a perfect case scenario, but you can't force any of that, right? Like, I know that's really where I'm at in terms of feeling ready to explore. And that might evolve. And I think that's super important for you to communicate with your partner, like what you feel like you'd be comfortable with if that arose, right? Are you comfortable having sex in an open environment? Are you comfortable maybe going down on him and giving him oral sex, or vice versa, in an environment where people can watch, right? So it's really discussing that before. And also, the one thing I will say is that most of these websites, when you go to register yourself, if you're going to go to a sex club, and even on the cruise, they take so much time in making sure that you understand that no one should be touching you without your consent, is consent only. The cruise has workshops. So they have full workshops on if you're new to the lifestyle. And that was what I really loved about Bliss, is that there were so many workshops, you guys, so many, which I'll go over a bit more when Jack and I do our full rundown. But one of them is, consent in the lifestyle. And like I said, all the club websites have it. They'll usually make some kind of announcement sometime in the middle of the night before they let everybody loose to go play when you're in a nightclub, and say, make sure you use protection, blah, 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 blah. And they have their like little speech, and then they turn you guys loose. So really, you just have to be a responsible fucking adult, right? Ask questions, talk, spit it out of your mouth, say the things that is going to be uncomfortable to say. Now, another question that I know is probably coming up is, well, what if somebody approaches you, but you're not interested? Okay, just be nice, right? Like, we've had to kind of be put in that situation and really just be like, okay, not everybody is coming to want to talk to us to fuck us. Maybe they do. I want to fuck us. So maybe they do want to fuck us. But at the end of the day, we can't be scared to have conversations with people and get to know people and really build like friendships and like relationships with people, even if we're not going to have sex with them, right? It's like, hi, they're naked people. And the best way to kind of spark those conversations is like, how long have you been in the lifestyle? Or, how do you guys play? What are you guys here trying to get out of the cruise or whatever? And just be a human. You'll find out so much by just asking those questions. You're not going to just find a situation where you start talking to a couple and within 5 minutes, they're like, hey, so do you guys want a full swap? Like, it doesn't usually work that way. It's really like anything else, you like building those sort of relationships, seeing if the vibe is right, all those things, and deciding what you're going to do from there. But having the conversation with your partner ahead of time is very important, so that you're on the same page going into these situations. Okay, on the cruise, where are the places to go where no one is having sex? So yes, I talked about this a little bit already, but they have the designated areas where it's okay. Playrooms, certain decks of the ship had play beds on them, so they weren't really rooms, but they were beds where during the day, I think it was like the upper deck, I want to say like 11, there was a quieter area of the ship where there were, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 beds, and you could play there anytime we were kind of at sea openly. So there's certain areas, and there, like I said earlier, there's public spaces and things where you need to have clothing on. You need to be covered in some way, shape, or form. Now, the workshops and events that I was talking about, those kinds of things are really great to help you ease into the vibe, right? So again, I had said they have a new to the lifestyle. They actually have a workshop for non-swingers. So if you're like, yeah, we don't really have the desire to do that ever, there's a workshop there for you to kind of just get the lay of the land, understand what it's about, and just meet other people who are also non-swingers. So you can feel okay with hanging, if it makes you nervous, hanging out with them, sitting with them at the pool, going to dinner with them, and just meeting other adults that are interested in the same thing, but not in terms of the environment, but not necessarily interested in fucking you. right? So that's also great. They had workshops for people who have been in the lifestyle for a really long time. They had workshops on boundary setting. We actually were walking through one of the bars and one of the workshops was going on and I had saw that everybody was captivated by, I think it was Mike and Lily, I think is their names. I feel bad because I didn't anticipate I was going to even bring this up, but they have their own like vlog and they're creators around this type of stuff. And they were giving a workshop on everything about orgies. Now, when I'm talking about a workshop, this wasn't like they were hands-on teaching us how to like have an orgy right there. It was like they were talking about what's an orgy and, how do you have one and like how does it go down and how do they suggest it because they host them a lot at I think in their city or their town, maybe at their house, I don't know. And basically what that looks like and, setting the container for all this to go down and having a welcome circle with the people that are going to be partaking that have agreed and know at any point that if you're not feeling it, you can say, I'm not feeling it and you can step out and like, how does the whole thing go down? And what do you do if you're engaging with somebody and then all of a sudden you like need a break, but like three other people over here are like getting after it? What do you do? What do you do with your hands? So it was really, I took notes. It was a really fun, interesting workshop and just stuff for me to come back and share with you guys. But we're going to go over a little bit more in depth when Jack and I do our episode together. But so you have so many different workshops. They have workshops on Tantra and building a deeper intimacy with your partner, how to give good blowjobs, how to have, all the tricks of the pearl. I can't remember what they called it for oral sex for females. So many different things, right? And it really allows you to go and have fun, even if you have no desire to be with anybody. It's like an immersive experience and education for you and your partner around possibility, right? Now, I wanted to go a little bit more into the last few things I want to share with you, which is what it definitely continues to teach me and what it continues to teach me about my body and what I'm learning. And a lot of that is really tied to life is meant to be enjoyed and not restricted. And I think there are certain areas of your life where it makes sense, right? I'm not saying be reckless, but not be restricted by my body's appearance is really the takeaway, right? How many of us are like really self-conscious and we won't wear tank tops or shorts or bathing suits because of shame, right? That's the question I want to ask here. And I know I have, right? I definitely, even coming from a professional bodybuilding world and just having to break my own internal prison of I can only be worthy and of value when I'm stage lean. And then anything besides that just makes me feel like people aren't going to trust what I have to say, right? This was like some dumb story I told myself really early on, and it put a lot of pressure on me. And when you have that kind of pressure, or you're just like, I see women all the time, right? Just having working with women for so many years is seeing women finally okay with wearing tank tops and wearing shorts for the first time in the summer and all these things. And then going into an environment, everybody shows up exactly how they are, whatever their shape is for that day at the cruise does not matter. And they're naked and they're comfortable about it and they're not ashamed about it, right? And I think about how so many women hold themselves back from life experiences because they fear the judgment of other people or they're really unhappy with their bodies, right? Like, how many women have I worked with in almost 20 years who are working with me only because they are trying to get in the perfect shape for the summer or to go on a vacation, right? I have a couple clients right now, or to go to the beach, or because they're going to be by the lake with their kids in the summer and they are self-conscious about being like, the story they tell themselves, I'm going to be the fattest mom at the lake or the fattest mom on the beach or whatever. They hide behind their kids in photos because they don't want people to see their stomach, right? Like all these things, you hold yourself back from going to parties and events because of what we look like, right? And this is with fucking clothes on, okay? This is with clothes on. We do this to ourselves. And I witnessed people with clothes off, unapologetically living their best fucking lives without any hesitation. And for me, that feels like being with some incredibly authentic people. Again, there's going to be a story for a story. There's going to be the fakes. There's going to be the clicks. There's going to be the this. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in my own experience and how I can show up and I can be there and feel audaciously myself and not as if I have to hide any part of me because I'm in an environment where this is the norm. Now, this is not to say that I didn't have my own moments or experiences throughout the 7 days, okay? I most certainly did. I most certainly did. But I'm going to tell you what my moments mainly were moments that I felt overwhelmed in certain scenarios. But then on the flip side of things, sometimes those overwhelming moments were also incredibly liberating. And let me explain. So sometimes the playrooms were a bit too much for me, right? Jack is a high energy person. He's a level 10 all the time. He gets his energy from people. I get my energy from being by myself. Okay. So when I am in the wild, it is if you have been gone from the house and you left the house with your phone on 20% and you don't have a charger and you're going to be gone from the house for, I don't know, 8 hours, right? And the only charger you have is maybe like in your car and it charges briefly from like point A to point B, but you're not really getting a full juice. That's kind of where I can get to. And so for me to get my full juice, I got to come back to me and like process. And part of this is the podcast, right? So there were points in the cruise where we would go into a playroom and I would be like, I can't be in here. This is too much for me, right? And I didn't want us to be in a playroom having sex simply for us just going into a playroom and having sex. I wanted it to be like, okay, we're in here and we can go through our normal energy and ebb and flow of foreplay and this and that. But something about the vibe sometimes felt pressured to have to get it done so that way we could fucking get out and somebody else could get the bed. Right. So that was kind of just situational, but I feel that sometimes going into some of these clubs and things like that, if it's a real busy and the playrooms were fucking packed. So I don't know how to remedy that. I mean, I feel like some of that can maybe be controlling how many people are allowed to go in there and that type of a thing. But anyways, that was a me thing, right? That kind of felt overwhelming at times. Other random places that felt overwhelming was like not really lending itself to be incredibly helpful in this conversation, but like the buffet and like that breakfast buffet situation, it just felt like people on top of people everywhere. And it just didn't feel like anybody really got the flow of how a fucking buffet works. And I don't know why I let that shit overwhelm me, but I was just like, sometimes I would just go and find a table and I would tell Jack, can you just please get me, I need two things. I need eggs and I need cottage cheese and that's it, or whatever. And he would just go and he can fight the masses, right? Another interesting thing that I found was I decided to go to one of the meetups. So they would have meetups, right? Where you could meet other people in different categories. You could meet people over 40. You could meet people who were, again, non-swingers. And I think I maybe said they were workshops, but they were meetups too. So workshops/meetups where you could meet other people kind of in the same area as you, right? And that would be an easy thing to have conversation about, right? So there were these meetups. Now, we were just so into discovering everything. Unfortunately, we did not go to any meetups. And I say unfortunately because I definitely feel like that would have given us a lot more exposure and more things to talk about and things like that to how this thing works. But stay tuned because that is definitely something that when we take another cruise, I'm going to make sure is a priority, is getting into some of these workshops. But I decided to go to one by myself. Okay. And that workshop was a girls only. No, it wasn't a workshop. Correction. That meetup was a girls only meetup. Now you're probably thinking like, why is it a girls only meetup? Because I like to play with girls sometimes. Now I say sometimes, and I'm going to go into that in just a second. The meetup was at one of the little bars on the ship, and basically I can't remember, one of the hosts kind of puts it on. There's different travel agencies that are also very involved on the ship and they will host different meetups. And it's really cool. I think it's definitely a perk of going through the travel agencies and things, but it's open to everybody on the ship. So I came to this and literally You guys, my armpits are sweating just remembering that feeling of going to this fucking thing by myself. I told Jack, I really want to go to this meetup. I want to meet some girls. Like, if anything, we have like our couple kind of thing quests that we're trying to work through, but I really would love to play with a girl. I would love to play with a girl and have him and the other husband watch and have a grand old time. Right. And then him and I go off and do our thing. But for me, the sort of the click for me with a female, it's not something that I feel can be done in like a real quick 1 hour meetup, right? I need to like have some more intimate conversation with this person. It's like anything, even though like I'm not trying to be her girlfriend, but I thrive more on like the mental connection paired with the physical connection, right? So I went to this meetup and it felt overwhelming in that capacity, right? I felt very overwhelmed because there was a few girls that I was chatting with and we really hit it off. And then what felt overwhelming about it is that immediately following that girls meetup was they opened up a girls only playroom with, I'm sure, anticipating that if you had a connection with somebody at that meetup, you could go to the girls playroom and you could go there and you can, you guys can have that space to play and it'll feel safe and there's no male gaze happening, right? So it's girls only vibes. And I was like thinking like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm good. I think I could do this if I really hit it off with somebody. And I got there and had really great conversations with, I would say, 3 women. And they've definitely been in the lifestyle a bit longer. This is something they're a bit more well versed in. And I felt very safe with them. It wasn't anything there wasn't a connection. But I was just not ready. I was not ready to go from that to right into the girls' playroom. I think if I was to see these women again on the cruise, which oftentimes happens because a lot of these people have been booking these cruises back to back for many years, I would be probably ready to play with them because I've seen them after that. I saw them sporadically on the ship and like we exchanged some like little chit chat and I saw them playing in the rooms with like their partners and stuff. And so I feel like now that I saw them more than once and had conversations with them, I would be totally open to doing that. So again, it was really hot. It was really fun and it was very liberating, but it also was overwhelming, right? The conversations that we had were great and just kind of seeing where they were in their lifestyle journey was very eye-opening and things like that. And so I enjoyed it and I would absolutely do it again. And that might be a leaf I turn over on the next experience. The other thing that felt overwhelming for me was that the hot tubs were overly packed with bodies, okay? Naked bodies most of the time. And that's okay. It was great. It was hot. But watching from the pool and watching everybody in the hot tub vibes were definitely high sexual energy a lot of the time. And it makes sense, right? You're in this warm pool of bubbly water with a bunch of naked people and you're in tight quarters, right? It's a lot closer. In the pool, it was very spread out. You could sit on a ledge of the pool with your feet in, and there aren't people extremely close to you. Some conversations within earshot and some not. But in the hot tubs, you're just like, you're all in there. And they were large hot tubs, but it just felt like too overwhelming for me. And I wasn't really ready to go there yet. But I definitely feel like that's something that I will want to explore when we go on a cruise again. Okay, wrapping this all up, moments that felt really liberating, being in a thong bikini, flashing Jack a nipple occasionally here or there, or, inappropriately playing with his body parts through his pants. And like basically to sum that up, PDA, right? Public displays of naughty affection to a certain degree aren't frowned upon, which was fun because I like to do that to him all the time. We're always just all over each other when we can be. He's a very affectionate person. I'm a very affectionate person. Physical touch is my love language. And so it really heightened that. And so that feels really liberating, is to be able to be with my man. And if I strike up the fancy and I want to be like all over him or making out with him or rubbing his nipples or something fun and just being playful, that it wasn't like weird. I couldn't do that on a fucking Disney cruise or a Carnival cruise with just, random peeps. So that's really liberating. Wearing ultra ultra revealing clothing and makeup and costumize my life, all that fun stuff. Super liberating. One of my favorite nights that felt really fun and liberating was going to the silent disco with him. Really awesome. Seeing people being messy and raw and open and just their authentic selves was very liberating. Not taking myself too seriously, right? Some of these theme nights were kind of silly and kind of cheesy, and the silent disco is kind of cheesy. And then going into one room that was what they called the dungeon, right? So they were trying to really make it like BDSM, and we got to watch a woman on a bed who was restrained with consent, right? This is something she wanted. And her partner and another couple basically just bringing her pleasure, but she couldn't do anything about it. And I'll just let your imagination run wild there. Meeting, the other thing that was incredibly liberating is meeting people who never tried to fuck us. Right. That really made it like, okay, this is fun. And I don't need to be worried that these people are just going to try to like have sex with us, or even if they did proposition us and we told them like that's not where we're at, or we weren't really interested in vibing with them in a room or something, that I felt like we could stand on all 10 and be fine saying that, right? That's really liberating. And the last thing I'll leave you, okay, it's going to be a little bit of a cliffhanger because it's really going to be a great story for when I have Jack on the podcast and we talk about it as a couple. But the other thing that was really liberating and you might think is very interesting is that seeing a naked woman all over my man and also hearing about it when I wasn't present was really liberating and fun. And I did not realize how excited that was going to make me and my fun little curious pervy brain. So I'll leave that there, and you guys will have to stay tuned for the next episode about this topic where I bring Jack and we kind of give you a little more rundown on some more specifics of the ship. Like I said, there'll be some crossover, but hopefully you enjoyed this episode and really hopefully you gleaned some kind of lesson from this on how you can really show up a little more vulnerably in your own relationship. It may not need to be this drastic, but really give you the permission to explore and think outside the box. So thank you for being here along my crazy journey. And if you like this episode, or if you're here because somebody shared this episode with you, it would mean the world to me if you just popped over right to where you're at listening to this, whether that's Spotify or Apple or one of the other platforms. And make sure to follow the show so you can hear more episodes down the line and you won't miss an episode. Usually it's some kind of little plus sign that you have to tap somewhere just to add that show to your library, and you'll get notifications when a show drops, or at least it'll pop up in your feed and you can continue this fantastic voyage with me. All right. I love you guys. Continue to do the work, stay iconic, and we'll talk later.